Good morning, LifePoint Church. I'm so glad you guys decided to join us today. One half-hearted good morning. That's all right. It's fine. Feeling right at home here. It's great. Thank you guys for the hospitality. I'm just kidding. I'm so glad you decided to join us today. My name is Lance. I'd consider myself family here at LifePoint. We've been up here quite a bit. Rusty and I have been friends for a long time now, and I'm glad I got to join you this Sunday. Rusty is so disappointed he couldn't be here today. He and his family were out on a little vacation this week, and their flights have been canceled and canceled and canceled. And I'm like, that sounds like favor to me. That sounds incredible. You've been doing something right. I don't know, you've been reading your Bible extra. I don't know what you did to earn that. And he says, it sounds really fun until you're traveling with 7 people. So that actually sounds way less fun. So the Gearhart clan will be back next week. Rusty will be back up here. He misses you guys. He can't wait for next Sunday. But it is a Memorial Day weekend here. And of course, here in the Pacific Northwest, it's raining, right? Because that's what we do. That's what we do here in the Pacific Northwest. And you guys, I can tell, are seasoned Pacific Northwest people because it doesn't faze you. It doesn't faze you. Some people who are new to Seattle, they get all disappointed when it's rainy on Memorial Day. Have you ever met somebody who moved to Seattle in the summer? Have you met those people? Those like sweet, blissfully ignorant people. You know what I mean? They move here in June, and July's so dreamy, and August, like, oh, it got a little warm once or twice. You know what I mean? September's beautiful, and you talk to them in September, and they're like, everyone's been lying. Seattle's just perfect all the time. And you're like, it's coming. Don't you? You know what I mean? Check me again in March. You know what I mean? They're like, it's sad, tears coming down everywhere, mascara's all blown out. You know what I mean? They're just on everybody. Like, it's a mess, and we all get it. We get that kind of ebb and flow, and it's always fun on the front end to be a part of something new and exciting, and on the back end, I know it can be challenging. And for some of you, I know this is maybe your first time at LifePoint in a room like this, especially for those watching online. The reason I love LifePoint is it's such a great church to be a part of if you've never been a part of a church before, and that's due to a number of different reasons. That's obviously some of the dream and vision that the staff and team here have, and it's a lot to do with you guys being like friendly and hospitable and welcoming. And if you are new or maybe new to faith and trying to figure out what this could mean, I think, again, you picked a great church. For those of you that are online, I know it can be a scary thing, and you're probably watching online to like make sure it's not a cult. You know, you're like, hey, is there crystals? When does that part come out? Do they do an animal sacrifice? And the service is still early. You never know. I mean, Rusty's not here. Let's make some memories. You know what I mean? Let's get Old Testament on this thing. No, we probably won't do that today. But at least not, I won't. You can do whatever you want in the parking lot. But no, I think it can be fun to jump into a church for the first time, especially like this. There's coffee, there's all these great things. You come in, and the experience is really tailored, honestly, to help you. That's the goal, is to serve the people of this community, serve people like you. And the church experience in itself, I mean, it's a great one here. The music is great. Doug is strong. You know what I mean? Like, it's like physically, as an orator, he's also very strong. Like, I put it in my notes, like when I come to speak here, like I can't have stage time with Doug at the same time because I just feel insecure. You know, he's just big and awesome. And friendly. God, I love that guy. And I love this church, though. I love when you get involved. It can seem so exciting and for you. And it almost feels a little bit like a Seattle summer, where it's exciting at first, but then after a while in your faith, when you start to read things that Jesus asks of you, you're like, well, that's hard, you know, or that's frustrating, that's daunting, that seems a little excessive, that seems a little demanding, Jesus, that might cost me a little something. It can be difficult because the typical church cycle doesn't always look like that, doesn't really fall in line, especially culturally here in America. It can be challenging to find that little bit of rough edge to church. If you're taking notes today, they were inside of your program when you came in. If there's one thing I know, and I've learned through my tenure speaking here at LifePoint, is you guys are serious about your blanks. Here at LifePoint, you fill in your little blanks. And so I know if I miss one, I can expect my tires to be slashed. So I will get all of the blanks this week. But the church cycle, one thing I know is so important is for all of us. We come either online or in person. It's great that the physical barrier can kind of be removed. And if you're away from town, that Online is a great alternative to being here with people. But you come, you hear a message. Maybe it's inspiring. Maybe it's informative. Last week, my good friend James Powell was here last week, and he had that like great Southern accent, and he's all giddy, he's likable. He's like the most inspiring person ever. I know for me, like some of my greatest moments and greatest regrets have been around James and how influential and inspiring he can be. And so like I get that. Like it's fun to be around those messages where Rusty brings great content, great insight about scripture, and he's informative, he's funny, he's got his jokes, he's doing great stuff. You come, you hear, and ultimately our goal and our agenda is that you believe. That's the next step, right? You come, you hear, believe. And it's funny, I talk to people sometimes after, this is the last service, so really I can say whatever I want. Rusty can't fire me at this point. But it's funny, I talk to people sometimes, they're like, man, I feel like you have an agenda. And I'm like, duh. I want you to believe what I believe. Like, duh, why do you think I'm here? As a church? Surprise. I want you to believe in Jesus. I want you to find hope for the rest of your life. I want to find a joy that supersedes any joy you've ever had in your life. You caught me. You know what I mean? And I want your kids to have an Otter Pop on the way out. That's what I want for you today. That's my agenda. So you come, you hear, you believe, and ultimately what do? You leave. You leave. I mean, we turn off the lights at some point. They lock the door. It's like you cannot come back in. You leave, and then you rinse and repeat. And next Sunday, you come back, and it's great. And usually at the end of service, we'll say you should join a group or you should take a next step. But, you leave, and then you come back, and we talk to you again. And we do the whole cycle. We inspire, we inform, and we do our thing. The problem is, though, I think we know this, that simply believing something, even agreeing with me at the end of the day, if you get to say, like, yeah, what I heard you say, I agree with that. Believing and agreeing, it doesn't really do much. Believing and agreeing doesn't do a ton because let's be honest, we all know that there's a gap between what we believe and sometimes what we actually do. Because if what we believed changed the way that we live our life, well then my nutrition plan would be different. Because I know things about nutrition, but I don't necessarily follow through on some things. Our finances would look different. We all know, come on, create margin in your finances. You make X amount, you spend X amount, have some left over, you save, you give. We all get these kind of things, but then that Amazon purchase happens and it shows up at your house and you go, whoops, you know what I mean? Like it just didn't always play out the way I wanted to. I saw some couples just edge each other right there like, he's talking to you. Have you ever played the game with your spouse? You're like, you don't even know what's in this box, do you? You don't even know what you ordered. It is the 8th box this week. Tell me what's in it. I won't be mad. They don't even know. I get it. What we know and what we believe and what we actually do don't always line up with each other. And it's challenging, it's problematic, and it's frustrating for all of us. In fact, a great author, her name is Lisa Turker. She's a communicator as well. She said this, I thought it was so insightful. Inspiration and information without personal application will never amount to transformation. This doesn't happen. If you don't apply it personally, it's never going to actually transform anything in your life, but it's taking that information, that inspiration, and applying it, bringing it to something deeper. That's when things begin to actually change. That's when things move. And Jesus was super on top of this. In fact, in his greatest sermon of all time, the Sermon on the Mount, I mean, this is kind of his greatest hits collection. If I were to read through the Sermon on the Mount, even if you're not acquainted with Jesus, you would be like, wow, I've heard some of that stuff before, or I believe in that ethic, or that's interesting that he was the one who said that. I mean, this is his really killer stuff. He gets to the very end of the Sermon on the Mount, and he closes it with an illustration. He doesn't just say, hey, it was a great week, best luck. He really closes it with this really insightful thing. And I think the reason he closes it becomes apparently clear. And we know this, especially if you're a parent in the room, that what you say at the end of the dialogue is important. You're really driving home a point. You know what I mean? Like as they're running out the door, don't forget your seatbelt. Or like, remember curfew. Like you can say whatever you want, but the last thing you want them to hear is pivotal. It's important. And as we're talking through red letter remedies, whoever wrote that one, thanks for that. But red letter remedies, as we're talking through the teachings of Jesus, this one, man, if we get this, it could change your faith. If you're in here and you were born a Christian, I mean, you grew up in a Christian family, you were in the hospital on the day you were born and they handed you a tiny Bible and you were a prodigy, you memorized it that day and you have it all figured out, this could change the way you view God. If you're here and this is all kind of brand new to you, this could change the way that we view our relationship with God, especially our end of the bargain when it comes to our faith. So here's what Jesus says at the end of his Sermon on the Mount. We find it in the book of Matthew. You guys ready? That was just as good as the good morning, you guys. That was problematic, but we're going to get better, okay? We're going to get there. Here we go. Matthew chapter 7, here's what it says. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Now, the assumption there at the end of the message is that everybody had heard his words. I mean, he knew what he was saying. He was a pretty good communicator. It's Jesus, after all. If you fall asleep during my message, yeah, I get it. But Jesus, I mean, like, he was unbelievable. So Jesus, he knew he had everybody captivated. They were leaning in. They were ready. And he said, if you hear these words of mine, which I know you all have, and even if you believe them, you probably even agree with them. But that all aside, the wise people in the room are the ones who will put them into practice. He says, as he talks about a foundation, the ones who plan, well, they plan to win. Those are the ones who aim to be successful. And all of us in the room, we love to win. Some of you more than others. Some of you are like unhealthy, love to win people. You all know those people. You know those people. You people cheat in Monopoly. You know what I mean? Those are you people who like take from the bank. You're like, I never did it. You know, you push over a kid at the family reunion to win a race. Like, yeah. You know, that hit too close to home for some of you. The Lord's calling right now. Come on, this is something. But we all get competitive. And why do we love to win? This is the deep insight that you come here for. This is the kind of stuff that you really come to LifePoint for. The reason that you love to win, it's because better than not winning, right? Like, right? Am I wrong? Winning is better than not winning. It's better than the alternative. It's better than what else could be. It's better than a loss. And we know that. And what better a category to choose to win in than our faith? To choose to win is the thing that is so important to us, our faith. And Jesus says, if you're not careful, you will settle for believing and miss out on doing and miss out on what potentially could be the foundation of your faith. He really juxtaposes the idea of the wise person with a fool, and he says this, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice, well, they're like a foolish man who builds their house on sand. Who builds their house on sand, who doesn't prepare, who makes the quick decision. Now, they knew, even as we know today, we have more advanced building techniques. We know we level the foundation, we pour the footer, we get the cement, we get the stuff. For them, they're a little more archaic in the way that they did things, but they looked for a solid foundation because you could rush to great real estate, but if you didn't prepare it well, you knew ultimately you were going to be in trouble. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you knew you were deceiving yourself. You knew that you were missing out on something. Jesus was warning that simply believing could be deceiving. At the end of the day, simply believing something can be incredibly deceiving. I'll give you one example. I know this to be true, and my wife would agree. She would actually celebrate that I finally admit it. I am a fussy traveler. I get fussy when I travel, get all high, especially when I got to get on a flight. I get airsick. I don't know if anyone else does that too, but I've kind of learned my niches now. I travel quite a bit, and so I've learned what works for me and what doesn't. And one of the things I know is if I'm well rested, if I eat pretty clean leading up to my flight, and if I'm hydrated, then I typically do okay. I'm going to do fine. And the other day I was in Chicago, and the night before I had a really early flight, and the time change already was doing me dirty, but I had like an early flight in the morning. I had eat like deep dish pizza the night before, so that was kind of X'd that box. But it was early. I was tired. I was trying to hydrate, and I knew, okay, like if I just eat a clean breakfast, I'm going to be fine. I'm walking through the airport, and wouldn't you know it, I smelled it before I saw it. Around the corner, and there's a Cinnabon, people. I don't know what kind of HVAC system they've created in partnership with Elon Musk, but they are doing something that is just so high tech to pump that smell, the heavenly aroma. I mean, it is all over that region, and you could just smell it, and I knew, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't. I know, I believe, I agree, I should not do it, but I stopped, and I lingered. Anyone else know that once you linger, it's over? And I can't make this next part up. I wish I was creative enough to make up this next part. I stopped for a moment, and I'm like, oh, I know I shouldn't do it, and in that moment, the song Simply Irresistible plays over the loudspeaker, and I know, come on. So I get a Cinnabon. Come on, I mean, you have to at that moment. You guys know the song you're playing in your head. I won't sing it. But that song plays, and I knew, God, I got a Cinnabon, and I knew it. I knew I shouldn't do it. I I believed that I shouldn't do it, but believing something without doing it, well, that can be ultimately very deceiving. In fact, believing something can trick us into thinking that we actually do it. James, the brother of Jesus, wrote to this in such a beautiful way. After Jesus' death and resurrection, James actually became a follower of Jesus, which in itself blows my mind. Could you imagine admitting that your brother was God? I have an older brother. He tried, you know what I mean? He tried to convince me that he was God. But could you imagine buying into that? This is unbelievable. So James, the brother of Jesus, you're skeptical in here. Listen, he convinced his brother, which says a lot. But James had probably heard Jesus talking quite a bit, and he said this in James chapter 1, verse 22, "Do not merely listen to the word, and so deceive yourselves." What do you have to do? You do what it says. You have to do what it says. You have to follow through and actually do something with it. I live in Seattle. This is where I pastor a church in the Ballard neighborhood in the heart of Seattle. And believe it or not, there are one or two skeptical people about Christianity in Seattle. There's few people who may not be there yet. We haven't got them all, you know? And so we're trying, and I get to talk with a ton of people who are on the outside of faith looking in. And their biggest complaint is not what we believe. They don't really care what we believe. They're like, you believe whatever you want to believe. It's when our beliefs and our actions don't line up, that's when things become a problem. It's when they have to stop and think, have you even read what you believe? Do you even know what you believe? Because it doesn't look like it based on the way you treat people. It doesn't look like it based on the way you act when you walk in with your church merch. Not you guys are great. You have your LifePoint merch and you go and you treat everyone with respect. But let's say other churches, you walk in and you got your church merch stuff and then you're rude to the person serving you coffee and then you're doing these things and they look at you and think, come on, I don't care what you believe. I care about the way you act. And when that doesn't line up, that's when things become problematic. That's not only where we begin to sabotage our own foundation for faith, but we start to sabotage the potential for other people coming to faith as well. We start to erode the possibility of God working in somebody else's life because they make assumptions about what we believe based on what we do, based on the way we treat people. Oh, Christians, they're just the angry group. They're just the judgmental group. They're the group that loves to judge people, make them tell them all the terrible things they've done with their life. They come to church already feeling bad and being grumpy, and they leave feeling worse. Who doesn't want to go? Sounds horrible. And so for them, they're like, no, I'm out. Come on, based on the way that I see people act who call themselves Christians, it's ultimately pretty problematic. And you know this to be true too, because the recipe for regret in your life is values. When they don't line up, when your values don't line up with your actions, that's when you get regret every time. You think about the biggest regrets of your life. It's something I held as a value, I didn't act on it, and now I regret it. And the same thing goes with our faith. The biggest regrets we have, the biggest moments where we lose steam in our faith is when we hold it as a value, then we don't act on it, then we get frustrated. And Christians, let me just warn you, and I've been guilty of this too, is we get to a place where we believe something, we don't act on it, and then we get frustrated. And we say, God, but I believed. God, I even agreed. But it just never really came to pass the way that I expected. James continues and he says this, but whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, which means not forgetting what they've heard, but doing it, well, they will be blessed in what they do. In the things that they do, in the way that they follow through on their faith, they will find a blessing unlike anything else. They will be blessed, more than just successful, more than just effective. Those are great things, but they will be blessed. They will have God in their relationships, in their mindset, in their personality, in their faith. They'll begin to see God move in a way they never expected. And isn't that what you want? Isn't that what I want? And if you're here today, I don't know. I always have to pause at moments like this because I just always want to bring clarity. I think the message and teachings of Jesus can be so misconstrued nowadays. It's based on some of our own culpability of what we do and the way that we treat people, some based on just the way that Christians are portrayed through South Park and The Simpsons. I don't know. There's so many ways that people culturally start to assume about Christianity. But listen to me, if you've ever been around the teachings of Jesus, here referred to as the perfect law, and you think it gives anything but freedom, you've been peddled the wrong version of the Bible. You've been peddled a version of Jesus that doesn't actually line up with Jesus, because the Jesus that we learn about gives freedom, not more shame, not more guilt, not more terrible, not dance this way and then you'll get this way. It's not, there's something so much better. So if you're here today, and maybe this is the only part you need to hear in the message, but let me just encourage you, the teachings of Jesus should be yielding freedom in your life, not more frustration, okay? This should be a place where you can find hope, not another place that can just tell you where you're messing up in life. I think we have enough of that old mental narrative. I think we have enough critics on social media to tell us the places where we're getting it wrong. I think the church should be a place where we encourage each other. Amen? Oh, I baited that one. That was a good one. I like that one. Yeah, that was a nice one. Here we go. Now, let's recap a little bit what Jesus had to say, and then we're going to really turn into a clear illustration and start to land this plane here in a minute. But Matthew 7:26, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice, we remember this, is a foolish man, builds his house on sand. He continues and he says this, the rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew, and they beat against that house, and well, ultimately it fell with a great crash. And I'm just going to, jokes aside for a minute, I know for some of you, you might be sitting here and like, man, if only you knew. If only we had a moment and you could tell me your story and tell me what was going on. Let's just say, for the sake of illustration, that the winds are blowing. The rain, it feels like it just won't stop coming, and you're exhausted, and you're tired, and you feel like giving up. You feel like quitting. You feel like being done. Maybe you're here and you're thinking, I'll give it one last Sunday, but I don't know if I can believe in this God thing anymore because I'm just exhausted. I'm tired of trying to hold this thing together, trying to hold this house up the best that I can. I'm tired of seeing these things on the news over and over. I'm tired of hearing from my boss. I'm tired of the way my relationships are going. I'm tired of the way my mental health feels right now, that I feel like I just can't get on top, that I'm never going to be hopeful again. I'm never going to find joy. And maybe you're here and recently you've been in that great crash where everything fell apart. And you are exhausted and you're thinking, I'm trying to put the pieces back together, but I just can't. Let me just encourage you for a moment. Jesus meets with us in those moments, not to say, here's what you should have done, but to say, here's what's possible. Here's what we can do from here. It is not done. You are not finished. He has not called you done. He's not called you out of the race. That we have the opportunity to rebuild, that you can find yourself encouraged in this place. Maybe you're watching online. I don't know where you're at. I don't know who needs to hear that today, but for some of you, I just want to let you know that even amidst the greatest crash and exhaustion of our life, we can still move forward. I don't know if you guys remember in the winter months, this happens all the time, is it'll get icy and snowy and you'll try and start to get some movement in your vehicle. You'll hit the gas and you'll just spin your tires. You guys know that feeling where you just feel like you're spinning your tires, spinning your tires, spinning your tires. I know for some of you in this room, that's what your faith could feel like sometimes, is you just feel like you're spinning your tires. I come every Sunday, I hear some stuff, I get informed and inspired, I go back to my week, and I'm just spin my tires, and I don't feel like I'm making any progress. I don't feel like I'm doing anything. If there's one thing, this red letter remedy that we can pull from Jesus, I think it's simply this. I put it this way, and I made it rhyme so it would haunt your dreams and you'd never be able to forget it. Taking action creates spiritual traction. Taking action creates spiritual traction. Taking action creates spiritual traction. When you wake up in the middle of the night tonight, clammy, this phrase haunting your mind, taking action creates spiritual traction. And the reason I tell you this, the reason Jesus talked about this is whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, inevitably the storms of life will come. Sometimes we think we opt into faith and it just means things are going to go better, that we're going to have like side passes around challenges in our life, but that's not what Jesus promised. He just promised to have an option along the way, and your option is taking action to create some spiritual traction. Come on, we have the opportunity, we have the tools, we have the equipment, we have the wherewithal, and hopefully, maybe along the way, you're going to get some information and inspiration. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to take action, to begin to move things forward, to begin to try something new. I like to think about it this way. When you have the church cycle, we ultimately just, we believe, we leave, and then we come back. But at the end of the day, maybe we believe, we leave, and we apply. We apply what we hear. We apply it, we try it during the week. I think about it this way. Anyone here watch HGTV? My people? 6 people watch HGTV? The ratings would say different. Okay, you guys, I get it. I love HGTV though, and maybe you don't have to watch it every day because let's be honest, the formula for a show is exactly the same. Every single show is exactly the same. The hosts are different, the style's a little bit different, but you can already broadcast exactly what's gonna happen before the show even starts. You start with a terrible home, like a terrible one bedroom, like, oh my gosh, sad story. We don't even have a toilet. We have a sink and we all share it. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, what? It's disgusting. And like everyone's like really hard and it's difficult and I get it and it's great. And they walk the house with them and they agree it sucks. And then they get to the place, this is the fun part, right? Where they show them the blueprints. They have like the 3D renderings now. And they're like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take down this wall and we're gonna add 8 bedrooms. You know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, like this is great. And like over here goes the golf simulator. Over here goes the 9th bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, and there's all these things. And we add a 2nd story and you think we're done. We add a 5th story. You know what I mean? And then everyone's like, yeah, this is so great. And the energy goes up and it's fun. And then, this is always fun, demo day. Like the homeowners get a sledgehammer, they poke one wall, and then the pros come in and they montage it in like 4 minutes. You know what I mean? Like in 30 seconds, the whole house is taken apart and put back together. And then there's that great reveal moment, right? At the end of the day where they peel things back, everyone cries, I get a little misty, you know what I mean? And it's like crying, and finally like my kids have a bedroom they can play in. There's like slides that go between each of their bedrooms. And it's like, oh, that's the coolest, you know what I mean? I didn't even know you were gonna do that. It's like, because we love you and you deserve it. And you're at home, you're like, they do deserve it, you know, like you earned this is great. And you get to the end of the show and you feel better. And that's what I love about the show. They're so predictable. You get to the end and it's always like, I feel better. And there's resolution. And it's awesome. They never like quit the show halfway. You know what I mean? Get to the end of the show, like this one was out of our league. So we left it. They're just have a home of studs. That's it. Like that's just no drywall even in the home left. Like that's it. They don't know. They don't end it there. They leave it in great hands, and it's awesome, and I love it. And if you put this in the context of church, the same blueprint, we get to kind of the same thing every week. We come in, hey, life is hard. This is the outline for every one of our messages. Just challenge it. Watch, Rusty preaches the same one every week. This is where things are challenging in your life, and you go, it is. You know what I mean? Like, I do get angry sometimes. You're right, Rusty. You know what I mean? I cuss a little. Yeah, you're right, Rusty. I do. And then you get to the next point and it moves on. And he goes, here's what Jesus teaches about it. Here's what life could be. And he paints this beautiful blueprint. It's this gorgeous blueprint of what life could be. Here's what your family could be. Here's the great things. He informs, he inspires, he tosses in some fun jokes like Rusty does. And he makes it this great message. And we walk away and go, that was beautiful. Like, I want my home to look like that. I want my family to act like that. I want my job to work that way. I want my mindset. I want my mental health. I want my heart. I want to love people like that. That's so great. What a beautiful blue. It's like a rain shower head. Like, this is awesome. I want that in my life. And we go home to our 1 bedroom with a sink. And we think, man, that was a cool blueprint. And by Saturday, you think to yourself, what was that blueprint again? I just want to be encouraged that it could be better. You come to church on Sunday and you hear another great blueprint and Jesus teaches about it and we're like, God, it could be better. Yeah, and you get all excited. You go back to your life again. And what a disappointing way to live our faith. What a warning that Jesus brings to say, this is the blueprint. But maybe it's time to get to work. Maybe it's time to start swinging a hammer. Maybe it's time to start getting after it a little bit, because if you live your life blueprint to blueprint to blueprint, you will just leave your life frustrated and envious of the people who do it. Envious of people who actually pick up the hammer and do the work. And here's what I know, it'll cost you something. You'll run into a bump. Come on, isn't that in every HGV too? Oh, asbestos. You know what I mean? Like, we never knew. It's going to cost extra. And that's the same thing's going to happen in your faith. Like, oh man, I said I would do this. I didn't know it would cost me this. I didn't know it would emotionally be this hard. I didn't know it would take so long. I thought it would be quick. I thought it would move. I thought I would just have like peace tomorrow. But it's been 2 months and I'm reading my Bible every day and it's getting better, but it's not great yet. And God says, I know. But we're swinging the hammer. We're getting the work done. Moving forward, we're pressing through. You are getting things done. And when you start getting things done, come on, whether it's a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to think, oh, I'm so glad we started Demo. Because now look where we live. Look what our marriage is like now. We didn't think this was possible. Remember when our marriage was the equivalent of a 1-bedroom, 1-sink? But now where are we? Now we like being around each other. Come on, now we enjoy our time. Now we look forward to vacations together. Now we look forward to these things. Come on, now we actually like our kids. We did the work and it was hard and I didn't want to discipline. I just wanted to give them screen time. I didn't care. You know what I mean? Like it was just like get through it. But now look, our kids and I like each other. It was hard in that moment, God, when anger was big and Rusty talked about, okay, love is patient. Okay, so I'm gonna try and be patient. I didn't always get it right, but I tried and I applied. And I was quick to listen and I was slow to speak. And it worked. And I worked. And I did it, and I got to the other side of it, and look where we live now. Look at my job, look at my mindset, look at my peace, look at my satisfaction, look at my marriage, look at my kids, look at all of this. And it's not a blueprint anymore, because the blueprint is fun and it's dreamy. But let me just tell you, your faith is not a montage. It won't be that quick moment, and after commercial break, it's all put together. It's not how it works. Sometimes you got to get to work. And it'll be outside of this building. It might be in a community group, might be in a group, might be on your own, might be with some friends. I don't know where it'll be. But outside of this building, the real work gets done where you start to take action. Wouldn't you know it? You get some spiritual traction. I found this great theologian, his name's Dustin Wills, and he was studying the book of Acts, which happens right after the death and resurrection of Jesus. And he found this really interesting observation about what happens in the book of Acts in the early church. Here's what he says. He says, in Acts, the biggest advances of the gospel in the New Testament happened through ordinary people. All of the miracles in Acts, 39 of 40 of them, were done outside of the church. And we need to expect that kind of ratio today. That if you want to see miracles in your life, if you want to be blessed in the words of James, well, it may be a time to get to work. At the risk of sounding like a 5th grader on a playground, what are you going to do about it? I'm up in your business. It's a little confrontational. You're thinking, Rusty's back next week, right? What are you going to do about it? I remember the first time we bought a house. My wife and I were so excited. It was definitely a fixer-upper. We had some stuff to do to it. And my wife has a crazy uncle. We all have a crazy uncle, right? But this guy, he's crazy. And so he was coming over to the house the day we got the keys. Literally, we got the keys from the real estate agent. We're excited. We're hugging. And he pulls up in the driveway. We're like, exciting. He comes in the house, and we're pitching our great dream. We're so naive, right? We're walking, and we're like, this wall's going to go. And this is going to be quartz, and this is going to be plated in gold. You know what I mean? And this is going to be this, and this is going to be a new bathroom, and this is going to be great. And he knew there was some work to get done. And he looks at us. I can't make this up. He looks at us. There's a wall right there. And he says, this wall, this one's going to go? And I go, yep. Turns around. Donkey kicks a hole in it. Like fresh keys in my hands, guys. I'm like, I don't know how leases work. I don't know if our loan went through. You know what I mean? I'm hoping we are mortgaged at this point. Or maybe I'm hoping we're not. I don't even know. So he kicks a big hole in the wall. He goes, there, I got you started. Thanks. I'm thinking, can we put a plant in front of it? What do we do? But there's just too big of a hole. So you know what we did? We got started. Then we got to work. And maybe today, I can't do it for you. You got to do it yourself. Maybe before you leave here, maybe just before you lay your head down tonight, you got to kick a hole in a wall. And you got to leave a hole. And you got to force yourself to get to work. Maybe you have to send that text that you never wanted to send. Said, I know it's been a long time, but I think we should talk. Hey, I know it's been forever, but I could use your help. Hey, I want you to call me in 3 days and check in on how I'm doing. Because I don't want to quit this time. I don't want this time to be the same as last time, when I say things are going to get better, but they don't. I don't want this time to be like last time where I make big promises, but then I don't pick up a hammer and I don't actually get to work. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be convenient. It's not going to be enough. Maybe today's the day to kick a hole in a wall so you can look at it. Go, it's time to get to work. And you can let all those dreams and goals and ambitions of what your faith could be turn into reality. Maybe today it's a day like that. Would you do me a favor? Would you pray with me as we close? Jesus, thank you that you draw near and you're faithful to do it. And as we talk about challenging stuff like this, know you're not alone in it. And if we went around and everyone had their reasons of why now's not a good time, and I would, but if only you understand the situation, I get it. And Jesus, you understand too. But you're calling us to begin. Not because you want us to feel bad or you think we don't have enough on our plate, but because you know the storms of life might come. And when they do come, you want us to have a firm foundation, placed solely on you. God, right now, I pray that you, in a way that only your Holy Spirit could do, could begin to plant dreams, goals, and ambitions, things that could be the way that it could look. And Jesus, more than that wisdom, would you just give us the courage to take a next step? I don't know what that is, but God, I'm counting on your Holy Spirit to speak. Right now, speak to people in this moment before they leave. God, before this simply becomes another message of information and inspiration, speak. We are humbling ourselves to listen. Thank you for the strength, courage, and wisdom. Jesus, we know in your word that it says, when we draw near to you, you are faithful to draw near to us. So today, we're relying on your strength, not on our own, to begin to get some work done, to clean up some stuff that we know we needed to for a long time, to change some things, to maybe work through a hurt, a habit, whatever it may be. That Jesus, today, the work gets started. Today, we look forward with anticipation of what's to come. We're believing that your teachings are more than just something to agree with or believe in, but it's something to do. We're grateful that you're with us in the process. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.